So glad that you are here today. I'm Susan with the Portland Workforce Alliance. We're a nonprofit that believes in helping you find your career passion and learn about all of the incredible jobs that are here in this community. We've gone virtual, just like everybody else. And so, again, we're so glad you're here. With us today, we have three amazing people from Swift, which is a digital creative agency right here in Portland. Natika is an art director, Julius is a writer, and Anna is their director of people operations. They're going to share with us about their work and their career paths, answer some of your questions. A couple of you have submitted some great questions in advance, so thank you for that. We'll do this in two parts because Nikita and Julius have a client meeting at 3:30, big client. And so they'll do the front part, and then Anna, who works in hiring and recruiting and human resources, can talk a little bit about internships and finding a job, getting started in the industry. So a couple housekeeping items. This is being recorded, as you know. Thank you for being here. Your video and audio are muted, no offense, just for your privacy. If you have a question, your questions are welcome. You can ask it in the chat at any time, and we'll just sort of keep our eyes on that. At the very end, we'll have a little feedback link. You can share with us what you liked and what kinds of topics you'd like to hear more of in the future. So with that, I will turn it over to Anna Yates. Anna, it's all yours.
Thank you, Susan. I'm so excited to be here today. As Susan mentioned, I'm the Director of People Operations at Swift, and I will talk a little bit later about what that means, what that role looks like within Swift, and a little bit about my career path, how I came to be where I'm at today. But what I really am excited about is being able to introduce Nikita and Julius. So Nikita is a junior art director at Swift and Julius is a junior writer. They've been with us for a little less than a year, and I have so enjoyed working with them and hearing about their career paths. And so when this opportunity came up for them to be able to share with all of you, I wanted to be able to kind of turn it over to them and have them share their somewhat non-traditional path to a creative agency. I'm going to rock, paper, scissor you all. Nikita, Julius, you want to rock, paper, scissor for who goes first?
Ooh.
Sure. Ready, Nikita?
Ready?
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Winner goes first or loser goes first?
Oh, good question. You get to decide, Julius.
Okay, loser goes first.
Well, I'm Nikita. Should I just share this lovely deck? Because I think that might help the both of us with this introduction. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing our screen. Ooh. And wow. Oh. Why did I forget how to present? No.
There's usually a present button, but I don't know why it's not there.
Why isn't it there? A little peculiar. Unless. Aha! Found you. Aha! Well, first and foremost, hello! We're Julius and Nikita. It's very nice to meet you. I'll start. Just to clarify, a junior art director, in basic explanation, someone who draws words, as I like to say. Julius.
I am a junior copywriter, and I guess I write pictures. Should we just go into a little more detail?
Sure. Should I start or should you?
I'll start. So I'm a junior copywriter, and if you don't know what that means, that's okay because it's kind of confusing. But basically, in the industry, we call like the written part of anything copy, and so I'm the guy who writes that copy, hence the copywriter. In the bigger scheme of things, I come up with ideas on how to do things, creative problem solving. But traditionally, I do write the words that go on an advertisement or anything that we do for our clients. So that's what I do.
And I'm a junior art director. So I am working with my copywriter partner, and as he writes the words and the scripts and comes up with concepts with me, I'm thinking visually what his words would look like, how they'd play out design-wise, how they would roll out in a campaign, and how that works well with the script and manifesto, or just thinking that Julius would be writing, and how that all works well. And that's an art director for you. All right. So we love to share what we do. So let's look at some work.
Oh, right. So this was one of our assignments that we were tasked with, which was basically to take Swift Agency's summer internship program and kind of revamp it for this year. And basically the original idea where it started was that flight school, which is an internship program, helps you to kind of take off in your career, that we equip you so you can fly, essentially metaphorically. And we're tasked with kind of taking on the next step of this program. And so we're thinking about how do we do this? And we're thinking about flight and like you go into sky and like space, and like naturally we just kind of, and to put it in simple terms, like the place we arrived at was just that flight school helps you find your limitless potential. And so the idea was that we're looking for candidates of infinite or limitless potential.
All right.
And so this is kind of like the behind the scenes of like how we get to an idea. As a writer, when you're thinking of ideas and concepts, you deal with a lot of words, and this is just kind of like one of the ways that we use to get to an idea, which is a manifesto. And so it's just basically supposed to capture the core central theme of an idea. So this was the manifesto that I wrote for this year's flight school. So I'll just read it really quickly. What if I could touch the sky? That was just a start. Talking to the clouds, just hoping to graze your hand. And sorry, it's blocked on my screen. Graze your hand across their ethereal vapor existence. But you couldn't have thought of peeling away the blue curtain of a sky to see what's hiding behind it. Now the universe calls out to you. It speaks your name. It gently demands that you take a nosedive into a black hole, ascend into new dimensions, and come out the other side terrified, electrified, magnified, further than the course of expectation you charted. You're meant to go higher. There's no getting around that fact. But you'll see there is a way through it, under it, above it, and beyond it. You had one question. The cosmos responded with 1,000,000 answers. Next question.
And as Julius said, that was a really great, well, shoot, amazing start to get the visuals going. And it helps curate our thinking of how do we revamp this internship program and even land at a direction of how we want to make this application that interns would fill out and apply to have us really understand if they had the limitless potential we're looking for and wanting to invest in. So with our manifesto, we started taking off tons of puns. Hope you're used to that and hope you're okay with it, with our ideas and our visual thinking. So we started with a wireframe, which is basically just sketching out digitally or on paper what kinds of outlooks and what kind of mechanics are going to be needed for the application. And we also had mood boards, thanks to our amazing designer, Sung Hoi, who helped really hone in a vision of what's going to take the words, the heart and the ethos of that, and make it translate visually, which felt brutalist, which is a movement that is really abstracts the normal thinking and breaks against the norm, which really seeded into our limitless design and heart of what we wanted to build. and then add in some fun cookie graphics that felt very native to Swift, including a cameo by our very lovable junior copywriter. And when you meld that all together, it looks a bit like this. And we started to lay out some designs and start to tease out the application. And Julius, do you want to start going in about how we managed to roll out our campaign?
Yeah, so we started by letting people know what flight school was all about and what we were really looking for in this year's group of applicants. So these are just kind of like some of the teaser posts, if you will, for flight school.
And as we teased, we teased it all out to let them know what was coming up, which would lead to our eventual landing page of the infinite application. So we wanted to make a ridiculously long, infinite application to know that there is an infinite amount of creativity, but an endless amount of opportunities to show how to be creative. And we wanted to challenge the idea of thinking that it had to come from a formal background of going to a certain school or going to a certain portfolio program, but knowing that we could see candidates have nuanced ways of showing how they're creative. Maybe it's in a question, maybe it's coming to a challenge or answering with a certain kind of funky prompt that we would never expect. This is our way of approaching that and saying, we want to see the limitless potential that you have. So we're going to give a bunch of questions to see how that can look. And Julius can speak more to those questions because he wrote so many.
Yeah, so so like Nikita was saying, we wanted to have this infinite scrolling application because we are looking for candidates of infinite potential, but also kind of speak to how you can also discover your infinite creative potential. And so we just had this really fun site that just kept going and going, question after question, graphic after graphic. And yeah, like this was a lot of fun to work on because there were like no real restraints on it. Like we could just think on questions. We could just have silly questions, serious questions, like fun questions. And this is, I feel like, where a copywriter really shines because you get to play with words. And as a copywriter, that's a lot of what you do. So like you're having dessert in a desert. Like, what are you eating? How do you turn a fish into a starfish? And there was another question that I remember I wrote was like, who is tomfoolery? Like, it's just like silly questions that sometimes don't really have meaning, but as a creative, it's fun to think about and it's fun to think about all the answers that you could get. So this was a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah, I think that was probably the coolest part of this application because it really turned into a big test of what kind of crazy, weird, off-the-wall questions could we put out there and just come up with and test out. And there was no restrictions. We just submitted the work to see if it would pass. And we basically had to go as far as pushing the borders and seeing who would say no, that we couldn't have those questions, which is what you want to do as a creative, right? You want to unleash your potential of all of the nuanced, funky, cool things that you like and put it in your work. And I know Julius championed that a lot in these application questions. And that looked like this. And this is just a small snippet of a bunch of questions reamed out, but over 200 questions. And that timeline started at the beginning of the year and ended in March. And it took so many rounds, so many different revisions, but we did it. And it was awesome. And I say was because unfortunately we had to postpone it. And it's one of those unfortunate happenstances because, you know, with the advertising industry, things happen out of our control and we can work hard and make a bunch of great work. But sometimes things like a national or global pandemic happen. So it's not the work done in vain. It's just set to the side until we can revive it. But another part of being creative is learning how to pivot. And we managed to do that by turning our summer internship into a night school or flight school night school, which we've been running now for 2 weeks. So that is just some work.
Thank you both. You did it. That was amazing. And I think from my perspective, one of the things that I loved particularly about the flight school approach was this opening the doors for folks who come from all different backgrounds and experiences to be able to apply for the internship program, and that we weren't necessarily looking for, as you said, Nikita, a specific college degree or a certain portfolio school. Like, it really opened this space for anyone who wanted to put themselves out there to be considered a candidate to be able to do that. I know our time with both of you is going to be limited here. Knowing that both of you come from non-traditional backgrounds into an agency world, if you could give maybe each of you a 2-minute quick little overview of like your path from high school to where you are right now.
All right. I'm going to make this really quick. Just for starters, I was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and moved to South Florida when I was 13. And I went to high school in Delray Beach, Florida, did the IB program, and went to undergraduate university at University of Central Florida in Orlando. And I went for my psychology degree because I wanted to go for a clinical PhD program. And it wasn't until my second to last semester that I realized I did not want to go for a clinical PhD. And it was earth-shattering. It was my first anxiety attack, and it was really tough. But after I graduated, I had to job hunt for 6 months and then started working in insurance. And thankfully, my roommate gave me some very good advice and said, maybe you should try a different career path, something that is more your style. I've always been painting, always been making art on my off time, but I never knew that I could have a career full-time as a creative, or specifically as an art director. So I went back to school and decided to move to Georgia to go to a portfolio program and studied graphic design. I did that for 2 years, and it was really tough because it was my first time being really bad at something, and I learned to get better. And afterwards, I had about 2 to 3 months post-graduation and landed a really great internship at Wieden & Kennedy here in Portland, Oregon. And I've been here since, interned, did a residency, and then I wound up at Swift through really great fortune and ended up with a really awesome junior copywriting partner.
Perfect. That's amazing. Julius.
So I was born in Korea, and I came to the US when I was 6 years old. I was raised in Jersey, and I went to elementary, middle school, and high school in Jersey. I went to college at Fordham in New York, and I pursued a history major degree, which didn't really get me anywhere, but I enjoyed studying it. And the first year out of college, I was working at Verizon as a salesperson, and I realized I didn't want to work there for the rest of my life. And I was thinking back on my history degree, what I could do with my history degree, and I realized I could analyze, I could research, I could write, and I had always been fond of writing, and I had come across a copywriter position at an agency in New York, but at that time I had no idea what a copywriter did or what it was. So I ended up sending my 17-page research papers as part of my portfolio, which is the exact opposite of what they were looking for. But fortunately, my friend at that time, he had a friend who was a copywriter in the industry. So he connected me to him, and he started talking to me about what it was and what you do as a writer. He suggested I read some books and look at some resources. So I did that. And then as I started learning more about copywriting, I realized this could be like a really fun job. And like, it was like a job that I had no idea even existed or could exist. But I looked into some initial programs like ad school programs, and I took one online course and I was instantly just like, oh, this is really fun. I want to do more of this. So I started looking more into like a full-time program, which ended with me in Atlanta to go to like a 2-year program at a portfolio school called the Creative Circus. And then after I graduated, I landed a job at Swift, fortunately, and I drove across the country to come here and work at Swift. So that's how I ended up here.
Thank you both. I know like you are short on time. I also know that we had a couple of students who submitted questions ahead of time. And so if you could say, as your parting words before you jump off and go like do an amazing presentation for these clients, what is your favorite part about working in the creative industry?
I go first. I think favorite part about creative industry for me is that creatives kind of understand each other in a way. Like, and I don't want to generalize for all creatives, but most of the creatives I've met are pretty sympathetic and empathetic to like how you feel as a creative. So if you're a creative who likes creative writing or like art or graphic design or whatever, a lot of creatives tend to feel self-conscious about their work, or sometimes they don't want to share their ideas. Sometimes you second guess a lot of your ideas, but creatives understand that, and they understand how difficult it can be to push forward your ideas and how difficult it can be to land a job. But a lot of creators are willing to help you make your ideas better and make it stronger and just overall make you a better creative. And I think that is one really awesome part of working in the creative industry.
Okay, Nikita, you're up, and then you're going to jump off.
I think the best thing about working in this industry is that knowing, and Julius took a lot of what I was feeling. I don't know. I think one of the best things that I figured out very quickly was that a lot of people are also kind of figuring it out too. I came onto the job and I was like, anyone else know what they're doing? And they're like, not all the time. And it was great because I felt like I always had to have it all together on every task, on every brief, on every ask. And I didn't. And it was just a welcomed environment of learning and knowing that everyone is working towards the same goal and everyone shares the wealth of whenever there's a good idea and everyone puts in their own work and their own contribution. It's good to be able to celebrate that with every single person that was able to help. And also knowing that not everyone comes from a formal background. Creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it doesn't just happen in one place or through one opportunity and at one time. People of different ages have my same job. And that's so cool because it shows that there's no perfect timeline that you need to follow to get to where you want to be.
Amazing. Thank you both. Thank you. I appreciate your time today. Good luck this afternoon. And we'll let you hop off and I will answer some questions.
Thank you. It's
Thank
nice
you.
meeting y'all.
Thank you,
guys.
Julius.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I hope that that was helpful for all of you to hear a little bit about Julius and Nikita's path to their current roles. I think my role at Swift, I'm the Director of People Operations, which really high level just means that the job of myself and my team is to make sure that our employees have everything that they need to do their jobs. So whether that is that there's kombucha on tap and the cupboards are full of food, or whether that means everyone has the IT equipment that they need to do their jobs, or that they understand their benefits and their paycheck. Like each of those things are pieces of the employee experience that my team manages. I have been at Swift for 5 years, and actually a little over 5 years. And one of the things that I am so amazed by and inspired by every single day is people that I get to come to work with, people like Julius and Nikita, who have these amazing different backgrounds and experiences that they bring to the organization to help solve our clients' business problems. And really are kind of given this playground or this sandbox to be able to figure out how best they can solve the client's needs and speak to the consumers. My kind of career path, high level, really quick. I, similar to Julius and Nikita, left high school thinking I knew exactly what I wanted to do and that I wanted to be a teacher. I went to college, and my first semester decided I did not want to be a teacher. And I got my degree in business. And I think one of the things that I really appreciate about PWA is this opportunity for all of you to kind of explore what the opportunities are available to you while you're still in high school, and see what those, what potential you have and where those paths can take you. I finished high school or college and went to work for a general contractor for almost 16 years in human resources. A completely different industry than a creative agency. And when I decided that I wanted to do something different, you know, I really kind of looked at all of the possibilities. And one of the things that really brought me to Swift was this creative space, but also the leadership at Swift. It's a female-led agency. It was founded by 2 women, and that was something that really spoke to me as I was kind of thinking about what I wanted in my next employer and what I wanted from my next employer. And I have I've been so fortunate to work for this company and see it grow from where we were 5 years ago to where we are today. I'm looking through some of the questions that got submitted ahead of time. We had one that came in that said, when you're hiring, are you looking for particular college degrees or something else? And I think one of the things that, you know, the flight school really highlighted is that, and what Nikita and Julius's background and experience has highlighted is that there is not one particular thing that we are looking for. I have folks with all different backgrounds, all different degrees. Some people have been to portfolio schools, some people have not. It really is about like finding that potential within each person and finding that right fit. And so I think, you know, part of this, as I said before, this exploration piece is really figuring out what speaks to you and what you want to see yourself doing with your career.
Anna, there was another good question. Isabella, graduated 2019, was wondering, you know, if you have any tips about getting hired after an internship.
Yeah.
Well, either landing your first internship or how, you know, what are some things that you could do to kind of position yourself for getting hired, whether that's 6 months or a year or several years down the road?
Yeah. That's a really great question. And I think especially, you know, in the space and experience that we are all in right now is it looks a little bit different than maybe it did even, you know, 6 months ago. I think, you know, there's landing an internship, there is, you know, successfully completing an internship, and then, you know, kind of finding your career or your job after an internship. You know, prepping for an internship or thinking about an internship, you know, a lot of that has to do with what your portfolio looks like. And so right now, especially, there are a lot of folks who are putting themselves out there and making themselves available to help you develop and kind of craft and fine tune your portfolio. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term portfolio, It used to be that you literally would show up with a book, printed book showing your work. Now it is more, it's typically done electronically, but it's really this opportunity to showcase the work that you've done. And most folks who are creative have a portfolio, and it can be this showcase of work that you have done, maybe for your school play or your yearbook or your school newspaper, or maybe you've donated some time to a nonprofit, or maybe it's just stuff that inspires you that you like to do on your own time. But it's really this way to showcase your work and tell a little bit about who you are. So there's, the internships can be very competitive. I mean, there's not a lot of opportunity compared to the number of students who are looking for internships. And so I would say working on crafting and developing your portfolio and networking. So finding those opportunities to connect with people and be able to get that feedback on your portfolio, as well as build relationships with folks, is really important, both as you're applying for internships and then through your internship once you've landed it. I would say that getting hired after an internship, the beauty of an internship is that it's kind of like a two-way interview, right? So you get the opportunity to showcase to the employer what it is that you're capable of, and what your contributions can look like. And you get an opportunity to determine whether or not the employer is the right fit for you. And so that is why I love internships. And it's a really great way to kind of build your skill set and build your network and build your experience, as well as kind of get a sense of is this the right place for me?
So really putting yourself out there, practicing, helping people. Well, one thing leads to another, it seems like, especially in the creative industry.
Yeah. And I will also say, one of the things that Nikita and I were actually talking about yesterday is attention to detail. Mm-hmm. So thinking about, okay, does my portfolio have typos? Does my resume have typos? Does my cover letter have typos? Have I had someone proofread it? Does it make sense? All of those little things showcase to an employer what you're capable of and what your work output will look like. And so I personally, I recommend having 2 to 3 people take a look at your resume and your cover letter before you submit it to someone, because every eye is going to catch something different.
That's so true. It's so, even the bigger the font, the harder it is to see something typo. But, we only have a minute or 2 left. And so I wanted to just ask you one more question, but also tell the students and a couple of teachers who are here, if you have any burning questions you want us to get to, please put them in the chat right away. So we're just about to wrap up. The one thing I wanted to ask you, Anna, is since you have been at Swift for 5 years, you've seen so many creative people come in, develop their careers, come out. Can you kind of define some of the qualities of what separates someone who thrives in a creative environment and someone who maybe struggles a little bit working, in that team environment?
Yeah.
What are some things that you see?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to my experience at Swift, because that's, as far as creative industry, that is all that I really know. At Swift in particular, I think this ability to thrive in what I would say chaos, in the sense organized chaos. So things are constantly changing. Clients their budgets are changing, their minds are changing, the needs are changing at a pretty rapid pace. And so someone being comfortable with pivoting and moving directions at a moment's notice. I would also say, particularly for creatives, I went through this exercise with a team a couple of months ago, and I think being totally comfortable putting yourself out there and having your work not be accepted. I think there has to be this level of humility and grace and being like, okay, like I put my best effort forward, and it's not that it was bad. It just wasn't it wasn't right for what the client needed. And so like being able to process and move through that is a really important part of particularly being a creative.
And maybe even seeking out those opportunities for a portfolio review, or just take a look at this and what's working here. Where do you think I can flesh this out or improve it, and being open to that idea?
Yeah.
Maybe we could do speed round questions really quick.
Yeah.
One person asked who can apply to a flight school internship, whether at high school or college or anyone. They're wondering, Paul is wondering about diversity in your company, or how diverse the industry is in general. And then, of course, Isaac is asking the question on everyone's mind: how in the world do we do this under stay-at-home orders? So each of these topics we can do for an hour, but do you want to touch on?
I'll try to go fast. Okay. So the first question was flight school, like who can apply for flight school, night school? Mm-hmm. So right now they've already selected all of the students for night school. It's a 5-week program. Based off of how that goes, it may evolve and continue to be a ongoing program. That being said, there's no limitations around who can apply for it. So whether you're in high school, whether you're 50 years old and you're deciding I want to do a career change, like there are no limitations. And I think that's the beauty of that program in particular, is it's all about what you're showcasing and what you're putting forward. What was my next question?
Just the question about how diverse the company is, and then how diverse the industry is in general.
Yeah, that is a great question. I would say that over the past year, Swift has made an intentional effort to diversify our workforce because we live in a diverse world, and our clients and their audiences and their customers and their consumers are diverse. And so it is imperative that we have employees on staff who come with different backgrounds, different experiences, so that they can speak to the needs of everyone. We at Swift hover around like about 20% diverse employees. Our long-term goal is to have our workforce be representative of the Portland demographics. And so we continue to make a concerted effort to bring in not only the best candidates, but also diverse candidates and employees. As far as the industry goes, I think it's something that not just the creative industry, but every industry, I think it has work to do for sure. And, there's I would say different companies are more committed to it than others, but here within Portland, I would say that pretty much every major or mid to large agency that I am familiar with and know folks at are committed to diversity and really working to kind of move that needle. And then working in COVID. Was that the other question?
Yeah, just, you know, Isaac's question about the best way to network. Given the limitations that sort of the challenges that kind of exist in general, like if you were in high school right now, what are a couple things that you might do to sort of put yourself out there and start building those early professional networks?
One, I think attending talks like this is like a really great entry point. And what I would say to begin with is hit up Nikita and Julius on LinkedIn and just say like, hey, I attended today. Would love to connect with you and learn more about your experience. I think that's a really easy entry point into networking. It's all about, sometimes it's just about your personality and what feels right. And to you, some people are totally fine going to, in pre-COVID times, going to a large networking event and just being in a room and just chatting with people, whereas other people are much more comfortable in a one-on-one setting. And so I think part of it is figuring out what feels right to you and works for you. The other thing that I would suggest is We Are Next is while they target college students, I think they are a really great network and organization to connect students with opportunities. And so they have a program that they're running right now where they're connecting mentors and mentees and getting advice on their portfolios and all that kind of stuff. So I would recommend checking them out as well.
Great. So making connections on LinkedIn, checking out We Are Next, and remember that Portland Workforce Alliance is always a resource for you. You have all of our contact information if you want to get some advice about the next steps in developing your particular interests. With that, I wish we had more time, but we have to wrap up. I just want to say thank you so much to Anna for taking time out of her very busy schedule to talk with us today and to invite Nikita and Julius to join us. Each of you, there's a little feedback form here in the chat. If you can just click right on that, just take 2 minutes to let us know some of your thoughts about today, and if there's other career talks in the future that you would like to join. We're all ears, and we're developing new virtual options all the time, pivoting in this great, strange new world. So tell us what you're interested in, and we will do everything we can to support you. We have a Trailblazers career talk tomorrow afternoon at 3. That's our last one of the month of May. So feel free to join us there. Anything else, Anna? Any last words?
Oh, I just want to say thank you to all of the students who made the time to come today. I was telling Nikita and Julius that it is 80+ degrees and sunny outside, and there's 20+ students in the waiting room, which was really amazing to see you all showing up today and to hear about their stories and their experience.
For sure. Okay, everyone, let's get outside and enjoy